With that, the purgatory sacred flame suddenly ignited all over Eilis' body. This was one of revered flame's trump cards, purgatory sacred body. As a fellow sacred body, he naturally could not compare to Zhou Zhou's eternal immortal level inheritance, the supreme sacred body. However, among experts with transcendent will, this purgatory sacred body was already in extremely good battle constitution. Swoosh! The revered flame, who had activated the purgatory sacred body, instantly turned into a fiery light and rushed in front of Zhou Zhou, punching him. Zhou Zhou's gaze hardened. He stretched out his right hand and took the punch head-on. Puff! He spat out a mouthful of divine blood. Zhou Zhou was sent flying more than 10 light years away. He forcefully stopped his body and looked at his right hand. He saw that his entire right arm had disappeared. Zhou Zhou sighed inwardly. In the end, he was still an expert whose willpower had transcended. He could not withstand the full-strength attack of a low-level expert who was good at fighting, even if he had also raised the supreme sacred body to the level of the pseudo-supreme will realm. In the eyes of the experts in the myriad worlds, he had a reputation as a quasi-will transcendent level combat power. However, there was still a huge difference between quasi-will transcendence combat strength and true low-level will transcendence combat strength. These thoughts flashed across Zhou Zhou's mind. When he looked at his right arm again, he realized that his right arm had already recovered completely. The supreme sacred body was not a joke in terms of recovery. Even the damage caused by an expert whose will had surpassed the realm could be recovered in the blink of an eye. The revered flame also saw this scene. His eyes narrowed as he immediately realized that Zhou Zhou's physique was extraordinary. It might even be of a higher grade than his purgatory sacred body. The damage caused by his purgatory sacred body could not be recovered by just any constitution. Also, as the concept god of the illusionist clan, his concept god ability was to burn everything. As long as one was touched by his flames, it was impossible to remove it through ordinary means. However, Zhou Zhou, who only had the strength of a mere pseudo-supreme will realm, had actually recovered so easily. The revered flame's eyes turned red as he watched. What a good constitution. It's even better than my purgatory sacred body. I really want it. Hee. After killing this fellow, I'll search his will and plunder everything he has learned. This way, I can also have such a constitution. The revered flame's heart was filled with greed for the supreme sacred body. Following that, he couldn't suppress the excitement in his heart. He immediately rushed towards Zhou Zhou again and stood beside him. The revered flame had the complete advantage on the battlefield. As for Zhou Zhou, he was at a complete disadvantage. The revered flame relied on his low-level willpower and the purgatory sacred body to suppress Zhou Zhou fearlessly. Even though Zhou Zhou had a supreme will realm martial arts realm, a top-notch supreme sacred body constitution, and a nomological skill with the potential to transcend the level of will, the methods he grasped had plenty of potential, but he lacked combat strength. Perhaps in the future, he could convert all these potentials into strength and crush revered flame. However, he could only be suppressed and beaten by revered flame. In less than a moment, Zhou Zhou was already covered in injuries and was on the verge of death. This was the first time Zhou Zhou had suffered such serious injuries after obtaining the supreme sacred body. The experts of the myriad worlds were also watching this battle. When they saw that Zhou Zhou was about to be beaten to death, some experts wanted to help him regardless of the danger, such as the reincarnation will, spring autumn dharma lord, god king heaven punishment, and the experts under the blazing sun divine kingdom. However, with the decree of the supreme will, they all gave up and watched the battle obediently. At the same time, they came to a realization. It turned out that the supreme will sealed under the high continent was a test, specially prepared for Zhou Zhou by the supreme will. No wonder the supreme will have been watching coldly from the sidelines, allowing this transcendent level expert to beat Zhou Zhou up. However, as they looked at Zhou Zhou's injured figure, most of the experts, especially those who were close to the blazing sun divine kingdom, could not help but reveal looks of worry. With the current strength of the common people's regal, how could he fight against a true low-level expert? The common people's regal was only at the pseudo-supreme will realm now. It was not even at the supreme will realm. Wasn't it a little too confident to challenge a low-level expert whose will had transcended? At the same time, Another group of experts had malicious guesses in their hearts. This common people's regal probably knew about the deeds of God King Heaven Punishment and the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord. Back then, they used their strength at the Supreme Will realm to challenge and defeat experts whose will had transcended. This common people's regal probably wanted to imitate them and break this record to show that Lu had surpassed them. Therefore, with the strength of a pseudo-Supreme Will realm expert, he challenged this low-level expert with a transcendent will. Great. He would only know that he could not defeat it after challenging it. Let's see how you're going to end this now. They all knew the Supreme Will's personality. Since his challenger had already accepted his challenge, the Supreme Will would definitely not interfere midway, much less save him. Since he had already decided to do something, he had to be responsible for the possible consequences of doing it. This was the Supreme Will's request for his successor. If he could not even fulfill such a request, he was not worthy of the title of Supreme Lord Reserve Army, let alone being saved by the Supreme Will. The God King Heaven Punishment was also watching this unprecedented battle from afar on the dusk battlefield. Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord had appeared beside him at some point in time. Third brother, you've overestimated yourself. The Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord smiled. Third brother is about to break through to the Supreme Will realm, but he is thinking about this powerful enemy of the illusionary race. If he doesn't care, his breakthrough will be imperfect. Moreover, third brother has already comprehended his first law skill, and his strength has reached the pseudo-Supreme Will realm. He wants to try it out. This battle has already been predestined. God King Heaven Punishment smiled and said, let's take a look first. Third brother hasn't used his will technique yet. It's useless even if I use a will skill. The Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord shook his head. The difference in strength is too great. That's not necessarily true. Since our third brother has chosen to attack, he must be confident. Furthermore, I'm a lord. It's normal for me to have the thought of recruiting him when I see such an expert. The Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord raised his brows. He raised his hand and deduced. He said in surprise, there are still unknown variables on third brother. This variable is the key to third brother's victory. The God King Heaven Punishment said softly, third brother, victory is guaranteed. In the sky above the high continent, Zhou Zhou, who was already covered in injuries from revered flames beating, gradually had a rich golden light appear in his eyes. Boom! A shocking aura suddenly erupted from his body, sending revered flame flying. The revered flame looked at Zhou Zhou in surprise. Under this shocking aura, Zhou Zhou's strength, which had already reached the high-level Supreme Will realm, actually began to rise again. Peak Supreme Will realm, Quasi-Will realm. When Zhou Zhou's strength rose to the quasi-willpower level, his strength stopped increasing. At that moment, he was emitting golden light from his entire body. Behind him was the phantom of a star on the map of the blazing Sun Divine Kingdom's territory. He looked like the ruler of the heavens. Zhou Zhou stretched his muscles and a dissatisfied expression appeared on his face. Even though King had advanced to a low-level willpower skill, it was still unable to allow his strength to break through to the low-level willpower level. With a thought from him, the information of the willpower skill appeared. Willpower skill name, King. Willpower skill class, low-level Supreme Will realm. Introduction. As a true God spirit on the Lord's law path, you can mark 100% of the territorial subjects and control everything they have, including appearance, bloodline, skills, weapons, law skills, and even illusory fate. When you control everything that the marked subject has, the subject doesn't have to suffer any negative effects. Quasi-will transcendence level. It had once again caused all the spectating experts to exclaim when Zhou Zhou's strength reached this level. Previously, they believed that Zhou Zhou had quasi-will transcendence level strength. It was only with the enhancement of strength, will holy artifacts, law skills, and lord talents that Zhou Zhou had quasi-will transcendence level combat strength. He had reached the quasi-will transcendence realm in terms of pure strength. Coupled with other aspects, Zhou Zhou might already have the strength infinitely close to the level of will transcendence. However, anyone with a discerning eye could tell that Zhou Zhou was still no match for revered flame. As expected, when the revered flame saw Zhou Zhou's current strength, he still smiled faintly and said even though he was a little surprised, that's all. I can give you time to use all your methods. He looked confident that he would win as he spoke. Zhou Zhou shook his head and said frankly, I don't have any other means at the moment. If you want to kill me, you'd better do it now. The revered flame felt that his words were strange, but he could not help but laugh coldly. Have you given up? That makes sense also. If it were me, I would also give up on dealing with a low-level enemy with a transcendent will when I was weak. The Supreme Will must have made a mistake. Why would he choose a fellow like you as his successor who didn't even measure his opponent's strength before the battle and directly came to his doorstep? If it were me, I would at least wait until my strength has completely advanced to the Supreme Will realm before challenging an expert like me. Now that you've given up, then I'll be benevolent and send you on your way. Don't worry. I'll make sure that you won't be revived by the Supreme Will. You will fall completely. The Supreme Will must be very sad to see you fall. You were nurtured by him, with it such a great cost after all. The revered flame laughed out loud. Even though he had been imprisoned under the High Continent, he could still observe the situation in the High Continent and even a portion of the myriad worlds. He had been watching the entire Lord of all Races contest held by the Supreme Will. It was precisely because of this that only then did he understand how precious a successor like Zhou Zhou was. It was no exaggeration to say that he would not exchange God King Heaven punishment and Spring Autumn Dharma Lord for a common people's regal. In the eyes of a low-level expert like him, it was obvious that Zhou Zhou had more potential, was more worthy of being chosen, and was more worthy of high hopes. At the thought of this, he thought of how the Supreme Will would be heartbroken to lose the common people's regal. And the more he thought about it, the more he felt a perverse and twisted sense of satisfaction. This is the feeling of revenge, he lamented inwardly. Then, he instantly appeared in front of Zhou Zhou and punched him in the face. A shocking aura and willpower condensed from his fist. It was as if it wanted to split the sky and earth, blowing up Zhou Zhou's head. As a martial arts expert, Zhou Zhou's reaction was extremely fast. He immediately raised his hand to block the other party's punch. Whoosh! The purgatory sacred flame was transmitted from the other party's body and instantly burned Zhou Zhou's entire body. Even though Zhou Zhou quickly absorbed all the purgatory sacred fire on him with the myriad methods star palm, he still frowned slightly. So strong. It was even stronger than before. Was this revered flame's true strength? There was no time to think. The revered flame's attacks were continuous. In less than a moment, Zhou Zhou was covered in injuries. Even though the supreme sacred body could quickly recover his injuries, the situation was still very serious. Most of the experts who were watching the battle revealed worried expressions. A small number of people were watching coldly from the sidelines or secretly mocking Zhou Zhou for overestimating himself. However, the revered flame, who was in the middle of the battle, felt that something was wrong. This was because he realized that even though he had beaten Zhou Zhou until he was covered in wounds, he was completely unable to return the favor. However, he didn't see any panic on the other party's face. Instead, he was calm. It was as if the crisis that he had created wasn't considered a crisis at all. Could this fellow have some trump card that he had yet to use? Revered Flame thought to himself in shock. Even though he looked down on Zhou Zhou, he had never underestimated Zhou Zhou. If Zhou Zhou could really be looked down upon, the Supreme Will wouldn't have chosen such an idiot as his successor, which meant the common people's regal didn't panic now. He definitely had a trump card that he didn't know about. The revered flame immediately realized the problem. His eyes hardened. Forget it. If he was too slow, there would be changes. Wanted to deal with Zhou Zhou quickly, then escape from this place and return to the illusionary world, i.e. suddenly pushed Zhou Zhou away. Then he floated in the sky and looked coldly at Zhou Zhou. The next move is my strongest will skill. Ever since I came to your supreme great cosmos, I've only used it on the supreme will. You'll be the second guy to face it. Elise, voice rumbled, shocking the myriad worlds. Zhou Zhou's expression turned solemn. He was all prepared to defend or escape. The revered flame raised his right hand high. The terrifying power of true fire gathered in his right hand. As the pressure spread, the power of the true fire gradually formed a spear of true fire. The true fire spear emitted a terrifying pressure. It only existed there and had yet to attack, but it actually made Zhou Zhou feel a terrifying sense of danger. Zhou Zhou's expression turned serious. What a powerful will skill. With this move alone, if he didn't have any other means to protect him, he would definitely die, be it their main bodies or clones. As long as they received this true fire spear, they would instantly disappear from this world, leaving no traces of the existence of the common people's regal. When the time comes, Zhou Zhou could only evolve into a special supreme will realm existence through the Lord talent of the Lord of Void, the Lord of Void. That was naturally not what Zhou Zhou wanted. Fortunately, I've finally completed the self-protection methods I've prepared. Zhou Zhou smiled, and his expression suddenly turned solemn. 19. Synchronize the chaotic heart body. Sure, a faint voice sounded in his mind. 15 minutes ago, in the abyss of the myriad worlds chaos sea, Zhou 19, who was cultivating the chaotic heart body technique, in seclusion, slowly opened his eyes. Al could not help but smile as he sensed Ili's new physique chaotic heart body. I've finally succeeded in cultivating this chaotic heart body technique. Currently, I already have a low-level supreme will realm chaos heart body. Even though it's only the lowest level chaotic heart body, it has already given me the qualifications to use transcendent techniques and holy artifacts. Me, the other clones, and the main bodies can now use transcendence-level methods to greatly increase our combat strength. At this moment, he heard Zhou Zhou's call. Zhou 19 smiled and said to himself, "Looks like I've mastered it just in time. Then, let's start synchronizing the chaotic heart body." As this thought arose in Zhou 19's mind, starting from Zhou Zhou, from Zhou Fight to Zhou 19, there were a total of 19 clones. Their divine bodies shook and began to fuse the chaotic heart body into their supreme sacred body. Yes, it was integration, not transformation. Even though the chaotic heart body was very strong, it was naturally far inferior to the supreme sacred body. However, the supreme sacred body could tolerate everything and had unlimited potential. It was still easy to perfectly integrate the chaotic heart body into the supreme sacred body. It's too slow. Zhou Zhou sensed the speed at which the chaotic heart body fused and frowned slightly. At this rate, it would probably take 100 years to fuse the chaotic heart body into the supreme sacred body. If he were to wait for such a long time, there would be nothing left of his grave. His hands began to quickly form a time seal. He had a high-level supreme will realm expert under him called the space-time will. It was the space-time will that he had subdued from Tianjun's corpse. The will of space-time wasn't only good at summoning the alternate timeline's main body to fight for him. In fact, he was best at the three classic will skills of space-time: time acceleration, time deceleration, and time stasis. Now that Zhou Zhou had used King and augmented all his subordinates on himself, he naturally grasped everything that the will of time and space possessed. This included the high-level supreme will realm will skill, time acceleration. At this moment, the will skill that he used was this will skill, time acceleration. Zhou Zhou hollered. At the same time, other than Zhou 19, all the clones under he also followed suit. They used time acceleration will skills with Zhou Zhou to accelerate the integration speed of the chaotic heart body. Time passed quickly, and 100 years felt like a dream. In the blink of an eye, the chaotic heart body perfectly fused into Zhou Zhou's supreme sacred body. At this point, his supreme sacred body also had the ability to use high-level holy artifacts. Furthermore, he didn't have to specially send a clone to cultivate the chaotic heart body in the future to raise it to a higher level. He only needed to focus on upgrading the supreme sacred body and integrate it into the chaotic heart body of the supreme sacred body. Naturally, it would upgrade along with it. It would not even be a problem for him to advance to the eternal immortal realm. This had already exceeded the limits of the chaotic heart body. The limit of the chaotic heart body was only the constitution of an high-level will transcendence level. A chaotic heart body of this level could even use 10 to 20% of the power of an immortal holy artifact. After surpassing this limit and reaching the eternal immortal realm, the chaotic heart body could already completely control the full power of one or even more immortal holy artifacts, i.e., had really reached that level. With the supreme sacred body of the eternal immortal realm and the chaotic heart body of the eternal immortal realm, Zhou Zhou was not weak even among eternal immortal realm experts. He shook his head and eliminated the unnecessary thoughts in his mind. What eternal immortal realm chaotic heart body? He had to get through this first. With a thought, a dark golden rod appeared in his hand. This staff was a low-level will holy artifact that he had obtained from Tianjun's corpse. It was called the Myriad Soul Stick. It was originally just a low-level, holy artifact. Later on, with the help of the Supreme Luck, it advanced to the low-level beyond holy artifact with an extremely low probability. This Myriad Spirit Soul Stick was forged with 10,000 will origin cores at the high-level Supreme will realm as the main materials and many supplementary materials at the transcendent level of will. However, even so, it was only made into a low-level holy artifact. It could be seen how difficult it was to create a holy artifact. Zhou Zhou held the Myriad Soul Stick as the willpower in his body continuously surged into it. After consuming the willpower of 1,000 Supreme will realm experts, he felt that he could barely control the Myriad Soul Stick. Zhou Zhou sensed the remaining willpower in his body. There was still about 90% left. 9 breaths. Zhou Zhou. He had to defeat Revered Flame within 9 breaths. Otherwise, once the time passed, the willpower in his body would be completely exhausted. At that time, would be powerless to fight. At that time, he could only let his clone go on stage for him. A clone could fight for 9 breaths of time. The 19 doppelgangers could fight for a total of 171 breaths, which was nearly 3 minutes. As long as the Revered Flame did not have any other trump cards, it would definitely be enough for Zhou Zhou to deal with him. At the same time, the Revered Flame's true fire sacred spear was also completely prepared. He looked at Zhou Zhou below as if he was looking at a dead person. To be able to die under my famous transcendence technique, a mere pseudo-supreme will realm expert like you is already enough to be proud of. After you die, repent for your arrogance. The Revered Flame suddenly noticed the Myriad Soul Stick in Zhou Zhou's hand. The willpower on it told Revered Flame that was a low-level holy artifact. A pseudo-supreme will realm actually has a low-level holy artifact. The surprise and greed in Revered Flame's eyes were simply uncontrollable. Wasn't this supreme will treating this successor a little too well? Why did he give such an extremely precious treasure like the holy artifact to his successor? If you give it to him, will he be able to use it? The Revered Flame could not help but lick his lips. It doesn't matter. I can use it if he can't. It just so happened that after he killed Zhou Zhou, he was a little worried about whether he could escape from the high continent and return to the illusionary world. However, if he had the help of a holy artifact, his chances of escaping would increase by at least 20%. At the thought of this, he could no longer suppress the fire in his heart as he shouted, "Junior, hand the treasure over to me obediently. Don't resist. I can give you a chance to reincarnate." With that, seeing that Zhou Zhou had no intention of agreeing, he sneered and threw the true fire sacred spear he had condensed at Zhou Zhou. If I kill you, that transcendent holy artifact will still be mine," he thought weakly. In the blink of an eye, the true fire sacred spear arrived in front of Zhou Zhou and pointed at his head. Zhou Zhou held the Myriad Soul Stick in his hand and shattered the true fire sacred spear. Then, he teleported in front of Revered Flame and struck his head. After the Revered Flame condensed the true fire sacred spear, the power in his body had been completely exhausted. He could only watch helplessly as the rod struck his brain, shattering his heart of transcendence. Then, his vision completely fell into darkness. Why would I dash? The Revered Flame died before he could finish his last words. After Revered Flame fell, all the powerhouses in the myriad worlds fell silent for a moment. They looked at Zhou Zhou and then at the fallen Revered Flame, their faces filled with disbelief. He fell just like that? A dignified Supreme will Transcendent Realm expert was killed by a pseudo-Supreme will Realm expert who had not even reached the Supreme will Realm? What kind of joke is this? Can one fight above one's level like this? This kind of cross-realm battle was simply opening up the myriad worlds. No, the precursor to the ultimate void, Great Cosmos. They are 100% sure that Zhou Zhou was definitely the first existence in the entire ultimate void cosmos to kill a will transcendent level expert with strength below the supreme will realm. The unprecedented number 1. His willpower transcended. An absolute will that transcended. All the experts only had this thought in their hearts. With such a battle record, if anyone dared to say that they did not have the will to transcend, they could drown the person who said that just by cursing. They suddenly remembered that they had said that it was impossible for the common people's regal to defeat this low-level willpower expert. and their faces immediately heated up. So it was not that they were overestimating themselves and wanted to prove that they were stronger than God, King, Heaven, Punishment, and the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord. They suddenly remembered that they had said that it was impossible for the common people's regal to defeat this low-level willpower expert, and their faces immediately heated up. So it was not that they were overestimating themselves and wanted to prove that they were stronger than God, King, Heaven, Punishment, and the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord. It was because they really had the ability to prove this, so they did it openly. He was actually like a clown, making sarcastic remarks at the side, saying that the other party did not have the strength to forcefully pretend. Great. This was a slap in the face in the modern world. While they felt ashamed, they also felt endless reverence and admiration for Zhou Zhou, not to mention anything else. Now, this third reserve of the Supreme Lord had indeed performed at the same level. He had completely surpassed the God, King, Heaven, Punishment, and the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord, and became the first in terms of potential. Back then, God, King, Heaven, Punishment, and the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord could not defeat a willpower expert before reaching the Supreme Will realm. The common people's regal did it. This was strength. From this, it could be seen that the Supreme Will's judgment in choosing a successor was indeed unquestionable. Who wouldn't be envious of this successor? These thoughts flashed through the minds of countless experts watching the battle in the myriad worlds. Then, they immediately prepared 2 letters of congratulations. Then, he sent a letter of congratulations to the common people's regal. Congratulations to the common people's regal for killing the illusionist clan and removing a huge harm for the Supreme Great Cosmos. At the same time, he became the #1 in the Supreme Great Cosmos with potential. There was hope for his will to transcend in the future. Another congratulatory letter was sent to the Supreme Will. It congratulated the Supreme Will on having such an outstanding successor. There was a chance for the master and disciple to transcend in the future. Subsequent existences below the Supreme God level were not qualified to send it to the Supreme Will. Only Supreme Will realm experts were qualified to send this letter of celebration to the Supreme Will. The Supreme Will realm experts were flattered. They did not expect the Supreme Will realm expert, who had always been cold, to take the initiative to reply to them. Because of this, they was even more certain of the importance of the common people's regal in the Supreme Will's heart. On the other side, the God, King, Heaven, Punishment, and the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord looked at each other and saw the surprise in each other's eyes. He hasn't reached the Supreme Will realm yet, and his will has only just crossed over to the Supreme Will realm. He can actually use a transcendent holy artifact. Let's not ask where this transcendent holy artifact came from for the time being. It's already terrifying enough to be able to use a transcendent holy artifact that's a level higher. The Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord smiled. The God, King, Heaven, Punishment hesitated and said, I think I've seen such a method somewhere before. Oh right, I remember now. Back then, the Chaos Will had a similar aura. Third brother should have grasped the inheritance method of the Chaos Will, which is why he can use a holy artifact that transcends realms. So it's Lord Chaos Will's method back then. No wonder. The Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord clicked his tongue. The Chaos Will was the creator of the Supreme Will and the Crimson Overlord. The chaotic will at its peak could only be killed by the Supreme Will and the Crimson Overlord. It could be seen how terrifying the Chaos Will inheritance was. As for Zhou Zhou, who had the inheritance of the Chaos Will, it seemed understandable that he could use a holy artifact that transcended realms. I can use the transcendent holy artifact because I have a future body at the same time. I can rely on the power of my future body to forcefully control the transcendent holy artifact in advance. Big Brother can use the transcendent holy artifact because his will is extremely domineering. He can even forcefully subdue the transcendent will of the holy artifact. That's why he can use the transcendent holy artifact. Third brother can actually do it too now. TSK Tisk. Now, the 3 of us are all reserve armies of the Supreme Lords with willpower that transcends combat strength. The Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord did not feel jealous because of this. Instead, he was very satisfied. Only such a Zhou Zhou was qualified to be on par with him and God, King, Heaven, Punishment. If the common people's regal was not as strong as them and was still on par with them, in a short period of time, it could be said that the other party had only risen for a short period of time and did not have enough cultivation time to make up for this gap. However, Once a long time passed, and the other party's strength still failed to catch up to him and God King Heaven Punishment. Even if he and God King Heaven Punishment did not say anything, the relationship between the two sides would definitely be distant. It was not that they despised the weak. It was just that the existences of different levels were not suitable to stand together. Keeping a distance was the best choice. This was also the reason why, even though the Lord of 10,000 Evils, God King Heaven Punishment, and the Spring Autumn Dharma Lord were all Supreme Lord Reserve armies, their relationship was rather cold. The absolute difference in strength made the Lord of 10,000 Evils automatically distance himself from these two brothers. These two brothers did not stop him and chose to silently admit the existence of this difference. Such an outcome was good for both sides. At this moment, the God King Heaven Punishment suddenly sighed. Third brother has now perfected his Tao fruit, and his heart is perfect. He can advance to the Supreme Will Realm without any flaws. Before he advanced to the Supreme Will Realm, he was already able to kill a low-level willpower expert. After he truly advances to the Supreme Will Realm, his strength will probably increase again. Maybe I can't even protect myself in front of a middle-level willpower user. The Spring Autumn Dharma Lord hurriedly looked over. As expected, after Zhou Zhou killed Revered Flame, he did not even have time to retrieve the other party's corpse. He could only put away the other party's corpse and return to the Reincarnation Sacred Palace to begin Ely's breakthrough. Rumble. At this moment, all the stars in the entire Supreme Great Cosmos, and even the Crimson Great Cosmos next door dimmed. Only the two supreme stars, the Sun Star and the Great Lunar Star, suddenly emitted a dazzling golden and silver light. This golden and silver light were like the two poles of yin and yang in the starry sky of the two universes, each occupying half of the world. Suddenly, the light they released quickly condensed again, finally condensing into a golden secret pattern and a silver secret pattern. They were branded on Zhou Zhou's shoulders. Zhou Zhou's body trembled as he felt a great power surge into his body. However, not only did this power not hurt him, but it was also rapidly strengthening his transformed will, physical body, and will origin power. After the enhancement, even if it was not the supreme sacred body, the physical body condensed by Zhou Zhou's will, the power of will in his body, and the will skill used by the power of will were more than 50% stronger than the other supreme will realm experts. Zhou Zhou had an epiphany. It turned out that the Supreme Star, Sun Star, and Great Lunar Star were not unique to the Supreme Great Cosmos and the Crimson Great Cosmos. Instead, in every Great Cosmos in the Ultimate Void Great Cosmos, there was a pair of Supreme Star, Sun Star, and Great Lunar Star that represented the dual forces of yin and yang. Moreover, the Sun and Great Lunar Stars in every Great Cosmos would produce a pair of Supreme Will Realm experts in the Sky Regional Great Solar and Regal Great Lunar. They would jointly maintain the balance of yin and yang in the Great Cosmos. They seemed to be manifested from the will of the Ultimate Void Great Cosmos. They were very respected in the Ultimate Void Great Cosmos. No wonder the Supreme Will treated Regal Great Solar and Regal Great Lunar so specially. Zhou Zhou thought to himself, these two regals probably had unfathomable backgrounds. The will of the entire Ultimate Void Great Cosmos was probably his background, and the reason why after he advanced to the Supreme Will Realm, the Sun Star and the Great Lunar Star would bless him. This was because the Ultimate Void Great Cosmos had blessed him through the hands of the Sun Star and the Great Lunar Star. To use an inappropriate example, this behavior was like an ancient emperor rewarding his subordinates. It was always the eunuch who brought the imperial edict and rewards to the other party. Regal Great Solar and Regal Great Lunar were the eunuchs with the imperial edict and rewards. Ahem. The reason why the Ultimate Void Great Cosmos would specially reward Zhou Zhou was because he had broken 3 records. In the entire Ultimate Void Great Cosmos, it was the fastest record to advance to the Supreme Will Realm, excluding those who were born at the Supreme Will Realm. In the entire Ultimate Void Great Cosmos, there was a chance of the first person to defeat a willpower expert with a body that was not at the Supreme Will Realm. The strongest newly advanced Supreme Will Realm expert in the entire Ultimate Void Great Cosmos. 3 records. All of them were extremely valuable records. It was not filled with water at all. When the will of the ultimate void great cosmos saw that such a genius had actually been born in his great cosmos, it alarmed him and made his personally bless Zhou Zhou. With these two blessings from the great lunar and the sun, even if Zhou Zhou didn't use any other means, he could be considered top-notch among his peers just by relying on the purest power of will. If other methods like the supreme sacred body were included, Zhou Zhou could be considered invincible among his peers. He could even fight those of a higher level. Apart from the above benefits, the will of the ultimate void great cosmos also acknowledged Zhou Zhou's identity as a holy king. The title and identity of the holy king originally came from his supreme and only Lord Talent Holy King. One of its effects was to allow Zhou Zhou to have the identity of a holy king. This identity made Zhou Zhou extremely famous in the ultimate void great cosmos. He was even recognized by countless life forms in the great cosmos as one of the future leaders of the ultimate void great cosmos. Even though Zhou Zhou was not very clear about the exact effect of the title of Holy King, the above effect alone made Zhou Zhou feel that it was impressive. As for the will of the ultimate void great cosmos, after it recognized his identity more deeply, if he met the other holy kings in the future, the other holy kings would tacitly agree that their status would be lower than him. They might even be asked to temporarily listen to his leadership. Before I met other holy kings, I didn't know the effect of this deep recognition. Never mind, we'll talk about it later. Zhou Zhou did not mind. He continued to focus on fusing his will technique and the power of his will. Even though his power of will had already reached the supreme will realm, they were like loose sand. Even though Zhou Zhou could use them directly, they were not very powerful, much less imprinted with a mark that belonged to him. As the new will technique took the initiative to fuse with the willpower of the supreme willpower realm that he had long achieved, Zhou Zhou could clearly sense that his willpower, which was originally scattered like sand, seemed to suddenly have a core, command, and gradually condensed. It became stronger and easier to use. This feeling was completely different from when Zhou Zhou used the power of the supreme will realm. Zhou Zhou was completely immersed in the feeling of controlling the power of will. Unknowingly, 2 hours passed. Zhou Zhou opened his eyes. At this moment, he did not seem to reveal any pressure at all, as if he was an ordinary person without any extraordinary tier power. No one could tell that this was a supreme willpower realm expert who stood at the peak of the universe. Supreme will realm. I've finally reached this realm. Zhou Zhou felt his body of will, the surging power of will in his body, and the will origin core in Eli's brain. A smile appeared on his face. With a thought, a nomological line appeared in front of him. These nomological threads were compiled into the entire supreme great cosmos and formed the bottom-level rules of the supreme great cosmos. What ruled this bottom-level rule was the origin of the supreme great cosmos, which was the supreme will. The law is the weapon, and the will is the emperor. The current me is already standing on the laws. Zhou Zhou chuckled. He had a thought. His first willpower skill king's information appeared in front of him. Willpower skill name: King. Willpower skill class: low-level supreme, will realm. Introduction: as a true god spirit on the Lord's law path, you can mark 100% of the territorial subjects and control everything they have, including appearance, bloodline, skills, weapons, law skills, and even illusory fate. When you control everything that the marked subject has, the subject doesn't have to suffer any negative effects. After reading it, Zhou Zhou couldn't help but click his tongue. Zhou Zhou looked at the information of the king after the breakthrough and could not help but click his tongue. Before officially breaking through to the supreme will realm, his king could only control all the abilities and cultivation under him 1,000 times. After breaking through to the supreme will realm, this 1,000 times directly became 5,000 times, which meant if he had a low-level supreme will realm subordinate under him, then after he was enhanced by the king, he could directly have the combined strength of 5,000 low-level supreme will realm experts. And how many supreme will realm subordinates did he have under him? Answer: 22 supreme will realm subordinates, which meant once he used the king, just the subordinates at the supreme will realm could provide he with the combined strength of 55,000 supreme will realm experts. Ignoring everything else, just the combined strength of these 55,000 supreme will realm experts was comparable to a low-level will. Considering the other methods that Zhou Zhou had, his current strength was probably not inferior to a mid-level willpower expert. And as the number and level of willpower skills he mastered increased, his strength would continue to increase. When he thought of his bright future, a smile couldn't help but appear on his face. Then, he stood up and looked out. It seems that many experts are paying attention to me. Then let's go out and take a look. Show your strength at the right time. Zhou Zhou smiled faintly and muttered to himself. Then, with a thought, he disappeared from the reincarnation sacred palace. In the sky above blazing sun divine capital, Zhou Zhou's figure appeared. He cupped his fists at the stars in the sky and smiled. Seniors, I should be able to become the protagonist of tonight's welcome banquet. Seniors, please do me the honor of participating in this welcome banquet. Only a Supreme Will Realm expert could hear these words. When the Supreme Will Realm experts heard that, they hurriedly revealed their true bodies or projections in the stars. They bowed respectfully to Zhou Zhou and said, "Congratulations to senior common people for advancing to the Supreme Will Realm and increasing your strength by a large level. We will definitely arrive on time for tonight's welcome banquet to witness senior common people's advancement." The words of the Supreme Will Realm experts were very polite and even a little flattering. However, they did not think that there was anything wrong with this. Between the strong, strength reigned supreme. If you were strong, you could stand above they and make they address you respectfully as a senior. Before this common people's regal advance to the Supreme Will Realm, he could already kill a low-level Will Realm expert. Now that Eilis' strength had advanced to a major level and he had officially stepped into the Supreme Will Realm, his strength would definitely increase greatly again. Perhaps he already had the strength of a mid-level willpower. Facing such a powerful existence with stronger potential, even if he had only risen for a short period of time and had just called himself a junior not long ago, they still had to humble themselves and speak respectfully to him. They even had to deliberately curry favor with him. It was very real, but this was reality. At this moment, Zhou Zhou could clearly sense the difference in their attitude towards him. That was a completely different attitude from when he was only a quasi-supreme Will Realm expert. Previously, even though they was very polite and respectful to him, it was mostly because of his ability to nurture a Supreme Will Realm expert and his reserve army status as a Supreme Lord. There was also strength, but not much. At that time, even though he already had the strength comparable to a top Supreme Will Realm expert, his realm was not. Even if other Supreme Will Realm experts knew that they had the strength of a top Supreme Will Realm expert, they still more or less looked down on their quasi-Supreme Will Realm aura, but they would not show it. However, this contempt was gone. Not only that, their current attitude towards Zhou Zhou even had the attitude of a powerhouse who looked at the future. Zhou Zhou liked their attitude very much. At this moment, three figures flew over from afar and quickly arrived in front of Zhou Zhou. They were God King Heaven Punishment, Spring Autumn Dharma Lord, and Lord of 10,000 Evils. Congratulations to third brother for advancing to the Supreme Will Realm. God King Heaven Punishment and the rest congratulated. I was lucky. Zhou Zhou smiled. The God King Heaven Punishment chuckled when he heard them. If even Zhou Zhou's advancement to the Supreme Will Realm could be described as luck, wouldn't the difficulty of advancing to the Supreme Will Realm be too great? Most Supreme Gods would probably not be able to advance to the Supreme Will Realm. Being overly humble is being too proud of third brother. Furthermore, I'm a lord. It's normal for me to have the thought of recruiting him. When I see such an expert, Zhou Zhou was speechless. He was just used to keeping a low profile. Other than congratulating you on advancing to the Supreme Will Realm, I'm here with the Spring Autumn Dharma Lord and Lord of 10,000 Evils to send our congratulatory gifts. This is my gift. With that said, God King Heaven Punishment waved Eilis' right hand and two items appeared in front of him. One of the items was completely red and looked like a peach, but it emitted a stench. Even though Zhou Zhou's will had already reached the low-level Supreme Will Realm, he still could not help but want to cover his nose in the face of this stench. This made he secretly alarmed. What kind of fruit was this that it actually smelled so bad that even him, a low-level Supreme Will Realm expert, could not stand it? The second item was a golden cloth with dense words engraved on it. Those were words of will. Only experts who had grasped the power of will could understand the meaning. It was words of a higher dimension than the nomological divine runic. Zhou Zhou glanced at it, and wanted to read it out loud. Don't. The God King Heaven Punishment hurriedly reminded. This is not the inheritance of our supreme great cosmos, but a top-notch will inheritance called the heart great cosmos. Their cultivation system is completely different from ours. If you read it out loud, this cultivation technique will be restricted by the origin will of the supreme great cosmos. You won't be able to cultivate this inheritance. Isn't the origin will of the supreme great cosmos our supreme will? Zhou Zhou looked puzzled. The supreme will restrict us? Of course the supreme will won't. The God King Heaven Punishment said helplessly. But ever since the supreme will established the supreme great cosmos, it separated the origin will of the supreme great cosmos from its body. Now the two are in a master-subordinate relationship. Under normal circumstances, the supreme will rarely interferes with the operation of the supreme origin will. That's because it's the most fair and follows the law of development of all things. Therefore, if we accidentally leak this cultivation technique so that you can't cultivate it, there's a high chance that the supreme will won't stand up for us. Instead, he will treat this matter as a punishment for us not considering everything and make us remember it. Zhou Zhou was speechless. Even though the supreme will's personality was gentle and amiable, he did seem to be capable of such a thing. I understand. Then, as long as I learn this inheritance outside the supreme great cosmos, I won't attract the attention of the origin will of the supreme great cosmos. Zhou Zhou asked. Third brother is right. That's it. God King Heaven Punishment smiled and nodded. As long as you casually let a clone learn this inheritance outside the supreme great cosmos, there won't be a problem. As long as you finish learning, the origin will of the supreme great cosmos will no longer care about you in this universe, be it cultivation or use, because he seems to only care about your studies. As for what happens after that, he ignores it. I've personally verified this kind of thing. You can rest assured. Furthermore, I'm a lord. It's normal for me to have the thought of recruiting him when I see such an expert. Zhou Zhou clicked his tongue. Was this considered turning a blind eye in a certain sense? Then, he directly put this inheritance into his #1 treasure vault for the time being. Then, he got Zhou Shursi and Zhou 15, who were in the ultimate void great cosmos, to gather resources and cultivate the will inheritance of this heart great cosmos. Zhou 14 and Zhou 15 quickly received news of Zhou Zhou and took out the will inheritance of the heart great cosmos. Then, they learned that the legacy of the great cosmos of their heart was the origin of will. It was a simple and crude name. Through his understanding, Zhou Zhou learned that the greatest effect of the origin of heart was that it could increase the quality and level of the power of will by cultivating this inheritance. At the same time, it had a secret technique called the all origin as one. The effect of the all origin as one was that it could summon the main bodies of the other alternate timelines in advance to suppress him by using the all origin as one. As for cultivators, they could greatly increase their cultivation speed at the Supreme Will realm by destroying the alternate timeline's main body and fusing it. Moreover, there were almost no summoning restrictions for this kind of early summoning. If one had enough courage and strength, a Supreme Will realm expert could even continuously summon the alternate timeline main body to suppress them and defeat and fuse with the other party to increase their cultivation speed. However, once he summoned an extremely powerful alternate timeline main body, this summoning might bring him trouble or even a life and death crisis. Therefore, there were advantages and disadvantages to this secret technique. If he did not want to advance quickly, he would actually be like an ordinary Supreme Will realm expert. While cultivating to increase his strength and accumulating various trump cards, he would wait for a new round of alternate timelines to descend. Then, he would cycle it until he advanced to the Will Transcendence realm. This was the safest and most stable way to advance. The All Origin as one was actually a little anxious to succeed. However, Zhou Zhou needed such a fast cultivation method. His potential was publicly recognized as the potential of his will to transcend. He even had the strength comparable to the mid-level will to transcend. With his strength and his potential, there was no need for him to stay in the Supreme Will realm for too long. That would be a waste of time. Furthermore, with his strength that transcended the level of a mid-level will, even if all the Supreme Will realm alternate timeline main bodies were found, they would not be his match. This was because the alternate timeline main body summoned by a Supreme Will Realm expert would definitely not have the strength of a will. Otherwise, wouldn't most Supreme Will Realm experts die at the Supreme Will Realm? That was why Zhou Zhou felt that this all-origin as one was very suitable for him. He immediately made a decision for himself. That was to make good use of this all-origin as one and advance to a willpower expert as soon as possible. At the Supreme Will Realm, he did not want to stay any longer. Thank you, big brother. This legacy is very important to me, Zhou Zhou said seriously to God King Heaven Punishment. We're brothers. Why are you talking about this? And I didn't give it to you for nothing. I'm still waiting for you to nurture a few Supreme Will Realm experts for me. Furthermore, I'm a lord. It's normal for me to have the thought of recruiting him when I see such an expert. Yes, big brother. Zhou Zhou smiled and said, Brother, you should be able to see the Supreme Will Realm subordinate you're longing for later. Really? The God King Heaven Punishment's eyes lit up as he asked, When have I ever lied? Zhou Zhou asked with a smile. That's great. God King Heaven Punishment was overjoyed. Third brother, you've helped me a lot. The situation at the Dusk battlefield is very tense now. I need a strong person to help me. If you nurture a Supreme Will Realm expert for me, you can help me relieve a lot of pressure. It's good that you can help, big brother. Zhou Zhou smiled and nodded. Third brother, what about me? Spring Autumn Dharma Lord asked impatiently. He had no choice but to do so. This was a subordinate of a Supreme Will Realm expert, not a Supreme God. Didn't they see that even the Supreme Will would specially hold a welcome ceremony for the birth of a new Supreme Will Realm? It was normal for them to care so much about having an additional Supreme Will Realm subordinate under them. Second brother, don't worry. You have one too. You'll see it later. Zhou Zhou smiled and nodded. If nothing unexpected happened, the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom would give birth to 15 Supreme Will Realm experts today. 2 of them belonged to the Great Lunar Court and the Sun Divine Court. 1 belonged to God King Heaven Punishment, and the other belonged to the Spring Autumn Dharma Lord. Therefore, he did not lie to them. The Spring Autumn Dharma Lord laughed and said, Then third brother will be able to receive the good news from you. After the Spring Autumn Dharma Lord finished laughing, God King Heaven Punishment introduced another red fruit and said, This is a fruit I found on a strange tree in a mystic realm called the Boundless Mystic Realm. When I found it, there were a total of 3 fruits on it. When I was at the middle stage Supreme Will Realm, I consumed a mutant tree fruit. In the end, it directly raised my Will Realm from the mid-level Supreme Will Realm to the high-level Supreme Will Realm. I wanted to take the remaining 2, but the mutant tree told me that I can only take one of these mutant fruits. Not only is it useless if I take too many, but it's also harmful. I felt that the mutant tree didn't lie to me, so I left it behind. Later, I wanted to give the Spring Autumn Dharma Lord one, but the Spring Autumn Dharma Lord said that he had already consumed a similar fruit. It was useless to consume it again, so I didn't give it to him. Now, I'll give you one of them. Your will has just entered the low-level Supreme Will Realm. This mutant fruit should be able to greatly increase your Will Realm. As for the last one, I plan to leave it to fourth brother. After fourth brother advances to the Supreme Will Realm, I'll give this last mutant fruit to Illimed. Oh yes, look, this is the gift I promised you before. Take a look. He waved his right hand, and 2 items appeared in front of Zhou Zhou. Zhou Zhou looked over, and the item on the left was a fishing rod. This fishing rod was completely purple and had the appearance of a great cosmos engraved on its surface. It emitted the aura of a holy artifact. It was a low-level holy artifact. Transcend holy artifacts. Zhou Zhou blurted out in surprise. Wasn't the reward he and the Spring Autumn Dharma Lord had previously agreed on a set of top-notch, holy artifact-level fishing gear? Why did it level up? The God King Heaven Punishment looked at the Spring Autumn Dharma Lord with a strange gaze. Didn't he know about this fellow? Why was he suddenly willing to give away such a valuable treasure today, even though he had a temperament like a miser? Furthermore, it was his favorite fishing rod. Even he didn't have many low-level fishing rods that surpassed holy artifacts, right? He was actually willing to take them out as a congratulatory gift to his third brother? The Spring Autumn Dharma Lord looked at this fishing rod with his eyes filled with reluctance. However, he still forced a smile and said, This fishing rod is called the Nine Song. It's a low-level fishing rod that transcends the holy artifact level. It can fish out treasures with transcendent willpower. The highest it can fish out is a treasure with transcendent upper willpower. I heard that among the previous owners of this fishing rod, there was a record of using it to fish out an eternal, immortal realm treasure. Of course, I don't know if it's true or not. I've only heard of it. Anyway, it's a very precious fishing rod. I think third brother is also interested in fishing. If you use it to fish, the harvest will definitely not disappoint you. The spring-autumn Dharma Lord's heart was still bleeding out after he finished speaking. Just as God King Heaven Punishment had said, even he did not have many fishing rods that transcended the level of holy artifacts. He naturally did not want to give it away. In fact, he had previously agreed to give Zhou Zhou a top-notch supreme will realm fishing rod. However, there was no choice. Among the two gifts that God King Heaven Punishment beside he took out, the mutant fruit was still alright. It could be considered a top supreme will realm treasure. However, that will source inheritance was a true will transcendence inheritance. In fact, among the transcendent inheritances, the will source was considered precious. At this moment, if he still took out the supreme will realm treasure that he had previously agreed on, there would be no problem. This was what they had agreed on after all. However, he was still at a disadvantage. Spring-autumn Dharma Lord was not someone who liked to compare. However, as a Supreme Lord's Reserve Army, the thing the God King Heaven Punishment took out was so good, but he took out a will holy artifact level fishing gear. It was as if he did not know the value of Zhou Zhou being able to nurture subordinates of the Supreme Will realm. Therefore, he could only change his mind at the last minute and take out this low-level fishing gear that transcended the level of a holy artifact with tears in his eyes. Seeing Zhou Zhou thank him as he took the 9 song that he had taken out, Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord comforted himself. It is fine, it is fine. Isn't it just a low-level fishing gear that surpassed the holy artifact level? In any case, he had fished this 9 song out of the myriad world's chaotic pool during the past 2 days in the Eternal Continent with the help of Zhou Fight's Providence. He did not spend much effort on this. Since he had already given it away, he would pretend that he had never caught this fishing gear. However, even though he thought so, the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord was still filled with reluctance. My fishing gear, on the surface, he looked as usual, looking very generous. Only the God King Heaven Punishment seemed to have seen through something. He looked at the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord with disdain. You have already given it to me. What was the use of feeling heartache? Look at how stingy you are. At this moment, the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord forcefully diverted his attention and pointed at the token on his right. This is my Spring-Autumn Treasury token. With this token, you can go to my Spring-Autumn Treasury. Inside contains all the treasures I obtained from the river of space-time and the myriad world's chaotic pool, as well as some treasures I obtained from other places. I've placed everything that I can't use, and that's valuable inside. The treasures inside are at least supreme, God-level treasures. The highest is even eternal, immortal realm treasures. However, I didn't mark them. If you want to find precious treasures, it's all up to your judgment. Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord smiled and handed the token to Zhou Zhou. With this token, you can enter my Spring-Autumn Treasury and take a treasure from it. Third brother, it's time to test your judgment. The Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord smiled smugly. The number of treasures in his Spring-Autumn Treasury was in the hundreds of millions. Furthermore, under his special settings, unless these treasures recognized their master, there was a high chance that they could not be determined by just observation. And how long had it been since his third brother rose to prominence? He did not believe that with his third brother's short experience, he could find the most precious treasure among the hundreds of millions of treasures. Oh, Zhou Zhou's eyes lit up. To the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord who had sat in the myriad world's chaos pool for countless years, he must have unimaginable treasures. Their grade must be extremely high. At the thought that Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord had so many treasures, he became interested. He might as well take a look now since he had nothing to do now. He immediately told the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord about this idea. The Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord was stunned. He did not expect Zhou Zhou to be so anxious. However, he didn't refuse. All right, let's go now. I'll wait for you here. It was just a wait. As a mid-level Supreme Will Realm expert, he would spend tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of years fishing. Waiting here for a while was nothing. Furthermore, with Zhou Zhou's willpower, no matter how carefully he observed, he should be done in 2 to 3 days. 2 to 3 days passed in the blink of an eye for him. He could afford to wait. I'll wait for you to come out too. The God King Heaven Punishment was also interested. He wanted to see what treasure his third brother could find from the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord's Spring-Autumn treasury and take it for himself. He had actually entered the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord's Spring-Autumn treasury once by chance. The treasures inside made even him exclaim in surprise and envy. Even though his strength far exceeded that of the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord, he still knew his limits when it came to collecting treasures. It could be said that they could not be compared at all. Therefore, during that trip to the Spring-Autumn treasury, he had only taken a low-level Wool-Holy artifact from it. This Wool-Holy artifact was completely useless to his strength. It even overlapped with the Wool-Holy artifact he had. In the end, he could only helplessly use it as a reward for his subordinates. He looked forward to seeing if Zhou Zhou could make Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord suffer over this matter, as he had similar experiences. You don't have to wait that long. Zhou Zhou smiled and shook his head. Just wait for me for half an hour. The God King Heaven Punishment raised his eyebrows, looking forward to Zhou Zhou's performance. The Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord heaved a sigh of relief. It seemed like his third brother had no intention of taking the opportunity to trick him. As expected of a good brother, the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord was touched. Okay, we'll wait for you. The Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord smiled. Zhou Zhou did not explain when he saw this. He held the token in his hand and injected the power of his will into it. As the power of will surged into the token gradually emitted a silver light. The light condensed into a bright silver spatial gate in the air. Zhou Zhou observed the spatial door for a few seconds before stepping in. Then, he raised his eyebrows slightly. He looked at the pure bright silver world in front of him and said in surprise, "This aura is the aura of the great cosmos." That's right. The Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord's voice sounded from the sky. There was a smile in his voice. This place was originally a great cosmos. Later, I fished it out of the myriad worlds chaotic pool. I saw that this great cosmos was very suitable for storing precious items. So I first moved all the natives in the great cosmos to another ownerless great cosmos. Then, I modified this great cosmos as a whole. After modifying it, I placed most of the treasures I didn't need into this great cosmos. It's been in my possession for almost 500,000 years. Zhou Zhou clicked his tongue. Even though he was already a supreme Wool realm expert, he had never tried refining an entire great cosmos and turning it into his treasure vault. And from the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord's casual tone, he must have done this many times. He shook his head and stopped thinking about it. Then, Zhou Zhou looked around at the empty silver world and asked, "Where are the treasures?" I'll show you now." Just as the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord finished speaking, they saw transparent balls of light appear everywhere in the silver space where Zhou Zhou was. There were all kinds of treasures in these transparent balls of light. For example, divine medicines, pill formulas, buildings, blueprints, sleeping living beings, small worlds, special life forms, miniature civilizations. There were all kinds of treasures. Furthermore, they were densely packed, and there were many of them. As for their levels, the weakest was at the grade 1 Supreme God level, and the highest was at the Will Transcendence level. Even though Zhou Zhou could not sense how high their grades were under the secret technique of the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord, Zhou Zhou could tell just based on their appearance. Second brother, oh second brother, do you think it's very difficult for me to choose the most precious treasure from your treasures that exceed 100 million with my foundation and knowledge? However, you've overlooked something. The treasures I've seen and handled might be much more than you think. You're bringing a teacher into the rice cellar. With a relaxed mood, he emitted the power of will from the origin core of will. In the blink of an eye, it spread throughout the entire Spring-Autumn treasury space. At the same time, he observed the appearance and characteristics of all the treasures. Through their appearance and characteristics, he determined how precious they were and if they were really suitable for him. 15 minutes later, Zhou Zhou had found his target. He stretched out his hand and beckoned. Not far away, an ancient mirror flew over and floated in front of him. It should be a low-level beyond holy artifact. Zhou Zhou looked at the mirror and nodded slightly in his heart. With his knowledge, there was a high chance that this was a low-level holy artifact. There was no mistake. Actually, there were other transcendent holy artifacts in this Spring-Autumn treasury. There was even a mid-level transcendent holy artifact. However, Zhou Zhou was not discouraged. That was because it was a fishing rod that had transcended the level of a holy artifact. The Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord should like it very much. If he took it, It would be a little like snatching what others liked. Furthermore, he had already obtained 2 holy artifacts that transcended the spring-autumn Dharma Lord. There was no need for him to be insatiable. If he really went to take the best treasures in the other party's treasure vault, he would make the situation ugly and ruin their relationship. He did not lack that mid-level beyond holy artifact. He didn't stay any longer and returned to the silver door of light and stepped out. In the next second, time and space changed. He had already arrived in front of the spring-autumn Dharma Lord and God King Heaven Punishment. You found the treasure you wanted so quickly? The spring-autumn Dharma Lord smiled. After he told Zhou Zhou about the origins of the spring-autumn treasury, he directly retreated. He did not watch Zhou Zhou's search for treasure. He did not expect Zhou Zhou to come out so quickly. Third brother, aren't you going to choose carefully? The God King Heaven Punishment smiled and persuaded. This guy has a lot of good things in his treasure vault. If you don't take a treasure with a transcendent will, I'll feel like you're losing out. The spring-autumn Dharma Lord actually said generously, Big brother is right. Third brother, choose well. There's no hurry. We'll wait for you. The spring-autumn Dharma Lord had his own thoughts. He came out after only 15 minutes. Presumably, his third brother might have casually picked a treasure and come out. It might not even be a supreme will realm treasure, but a supreme god-level treasure. Even though he did not want the precious treasures in the treasure vault to be lost, if he, the third brother he admired, left after taking just one supreme god treasure, even someone as stingy as he would feel uneasy. There's no need. Zhou Zhou smiled and shook his head. He said mysteriously, And who said I didn't get anything good? Huh? The God King Heaven Punishment and the spring-autumn Dharma Lord were stunned. How long has it been since Zhou Zhou entered the spring-autumn treasury? What good stuff could he find in such a short period of time? Zhou Zhou could tell what they was thinking from their expression. He had no intention of hiding anything. He opened his right hand, and an ancient mirror slowly appeared in his palm. As soon as this ancient mirror appeared, it was as if the seal had been lifted, emitting a shocking power and aura. Furthermore, this aura was the aura of a low-level holy artifact. God King Heaven Punishment and the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord were stunned when they saw this mirror, especially the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord. He looked at the mirror with a bitter expression. Third brother, you actually got it? Zhou Zhou nodded. When I saw this mirror, I felt that this mirror was fated with me, so I brought it over. I saw a black fishing rod at first, but I thought that second brother liked to collect fishing gear the most, so I didn't take it. Zhou Zhou chuckled. When the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord heard Zhou Zhou mention the black fishing rod, his heart skipped a beat. And when he heard Zhou Zhou say that he liked to collect fishing rods, so he didn't take the black fishing rod, he immediately relaxed. A smile appeared on his face as he looked at Zhou Zhou with even more kindness. This brother was really generous. He could have taken the best thing, but he chose the bad one and left the best one for him. What a good brother. At this moment, the uncomfortable feeling that the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord had from losing a low-level holy artifact also disappeared. After Zhou Zhou received the gifts from the God King Heaven Punishment and the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord, he prepared to invite the two of them to rest in the blazing sun divine capital. The two of them naturally did not refuse. Even though they had other things to do now, nothing could compare to improving their relationship with Zhou Zhou, especially since the other party was not only the existence with the greatest potential in the ultimate void great cosmos, but he was also nurturing supreme will realm experts for his faction. Anyone would feel that improving their relationship with Zhou Zhou was more important. The three of them entered Blazing Sun Shrine and sat down to chat. It was mainly because Zhou Zhou was chatting. The God King Heaven Punishment and the Spring-Autumn Dharma Lord were a little distracted. Zhou Zhou smiled when he saw this. He could tell at a glance that they was paying attention to the supreme will realm subordinate that was about to be born. He understood this feeling very well, so he didn't care about the duo's perfunctory attitude. He was still smiling and communicating with them. As they communicated, Zhou Zhou thought to himself and activated the supreme unique Lord talent that he had awakened today. He did not deliberately choose which Lord talent to improve the day before because he had to focus on advancing to the supreme will realm. Therefore, the Lord talent that he upgraded today was completely a random Lord talent. Fortunately, even if he was randomly promoted to a Lord talent, The attributes and development potential of all his Lord talents were not bad. Therefore, he was not afraid of wasting this opportunity to be promoted with a poor Lord talent. He nodded slightly after he looked over. Did he choose this Lord talent? It was all right. Protection of the original Supreme God origin, Supreme, unique. Specific talent effect 1. Supreme blessing of the origin. The origin Supreme God, under the command of the common people's regal, has performed the supreme blessing on you and your subjects. You and your subjects have a large world that you can control freely in your bodies. This world can grow to the highest level of a grade 4 Supreme God. Specific talent effect 2. Great World God Lord. Due to the great world in your body, your potential will increase by a large level, and it will be easier to increase your willpower level. The upper limit is a grade 4 Supreme God Spirit. Specific talent effect 3. Regal favor. You and the subjects under you are blessed by the providence of the common people's regal because you are a natural-born divine king and a common people's regal subject. Your providence is higher than most life forms. Under the care of the common people's regal, you can often turn misfortune into fortune when you encounter danger. It's also easier for you to obtain treasures and other resources that are difficult for most life forms to obtain. When the subjects under you die, the world in your bodies will absorb your corpses and strengthen the origin of your great world, becoming a part of the myriad worlds. Your subjects will not really die, but they will become the origin will of the great world. At the very least, they will have the strength of a God spirit, but they can only live in their own great world and live eternally and coexist with the myriad worlds until they are destroyed. Specific talent effect 4. Supreme God path. You and your subjects will not encounter any bottlenecks before advancing to the Supreme God realm. The probability of breaking through the bottleneck and successfully advancing to the 4th order Supreme God realm after grade 1 will increase by 50%. When you advance to the Supreme Will realm, the probability of success will increase by 10%. After Zhou Zhou saw the effect of this new Supreme Unique Lord talent, he nodded slightly. Even though part of the effect of this Lord talent overlapped with the effects of the other Lord talents that he had, these would fortunately not affect each other. In other words, even though their effects seemed to overlap, they had actually superimposed on each other. This was already very good. In particular, his third effect surprised Zhou Zhou. After the subjects died, they would become the world's will and at least have the strength of a God spirit. Did that mean that they could still become God spirits no matter how bad his subjects were? When Zhou Zhou thought of the number of subjects in the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom, he felt that it was ridiculous. How many God spirits would the Supreme Great Cosmos have if they all became God spirits? He shook his head and stopped thinking about it. No matter how many God spirits there were, they were useless to him. This was because the God spirits that were reincarnated after death could only have combat power at the God spirit level in their own world. In other words, they could only protect themselves and could not be sent out to fight the enemy with the Blazing Sun Divine Kingdom's army. From the looks of it, it was best for the subjects not to die. As long as the subjects did not die, with their potential as grade 4 supreme gods, they could easily become true God tier, master God tier, or even a supreme god after all. With his help, it was not impossible for them to advance to the Supreme Will realm. Wasn't this much better than being a god who could only guard his home after death? He stopped thinking about it. When he returned to his senses, they saw that God King Heaven Punishment, and they were still chatting as they waited for the birth of their Supreme Will realm subordinates. He smiled to himself and said, "Eldest brother, second brother, third brother, I still have something to deal with. You guys chat here first. I'll come back later. Go on." The God King Heaven Punishment smiled and said, "You're the ruler of the Supreme God Nation. There's no need to delay things. You're just chatting beside us." That's right. The Spring Autumn Dharma Lord nodded in agreement. The two of them had already gotten rid of their status as lords, so they did not have so many miscellaneous matters on them.